Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. I've called this press conference today to provide you all with information regarding yesterday's fatal shooting at JT's Kia, the police pursuit that followed the shooting, the subsequent murder suspect apprehension, and then a fatal collision involving a Columbia police officer and another vehicle. I've asked Coroner Rutherford to join me today to provide information on the victim of the fatal collision and the coroner's role in this investigation. Coroner Rutherford.
On behalf of the Richland County Coroner's Office, I extend my deepest condolences to the family of Ashley Brown, A-S-H-L-E-Y, Brown, B-R-O-W-N, age 34 years old. She died as a result of the collision that happened on yesterday. I am confirming that she was pregnant at the time of this collision, somewhere between 27 and 28 weeks gestation. Unfortunately, the fetus died as well as a result of the collision. The cause of death is blunt force injuries. The manner of death is to be determined. This matter is still under investigation. I will not be providing any details about her exact injuries. Thank you.
Thank you. I stand before you today with a very heavy heart. Just a broken heart. Before I summarize the tragic events, I want to echo what the coroner said, just express on behalf of the police department in our city. I thank Ms. Wilson for being here, but I want to express our heartfelt condolences to the family of Miss Ashley Michelle Brown. If you've heard from the coroner, she was fatally injured in a collision with a Columbia police cruiser yesterday. As a parent, I can't imagine the extent of the pain that her family is going through right now, and I can only say I'm so sorry. There's no other way to describe yesterday other than tragic. I will do my best to provide you with a timeline of events with as much information as we can at this time, and I'll just emphasize this information could change as this investigation progresses. I just felt like it was important that we shared what we know right now, and again spoke to the tragedy that occurred with the family of Miss Brown. Yesterday afternoon, about 3:04 p.m., officers responded to JT Kia. It's a car dealership on Greystone Boulevard in Columbia, and they responded to investigate a report of a shooting. Upon arrival at 3:08, and I'm going to be specific on this timeline because I think it brings context to this, officers located the victim. The victim was identified as Graham Pope, date of birth of 9/22/84. That identification was conducted by the coroner's office yesterday. Mr. Pope was shot multiple times while seated in a vehicle at the business. The victim was transported to the hospital where he later died. A witness at the scene provided our officers who first arrived with a detailed description of the suspect's vehicle, which was a gray Ford Mustang. Approximately 2 minutes later, at 3:10, a responding CPD officer located the suspect vehicle on River Drive. The officer initiated his emergency equipment, lights and siren, and initiated a traffic stop. The suspect did not comply, instead accelerated and fled towards North Main Street. The officer notified dispatch of the pursuit and the direction of travel of the suspect. This information was immediately broadcasted to area officers for assistance. As this was unfolding, Officer Darian Davis was clearing another call for service in the 6100 block of North Main Street. Upon hearing the pursuit broadcast, he immediately leaves his location and responds inbound on North Main Street towards River Drive. Less than a minute later, he collides with a vehicle, a 2023 Toyota sedan operated by Miss Brown, at the intersection of Prescott Road and North Main Street. This is approximately 3/10 of a mile from where he began his response to assist. After the initial collision, a secondary collision occurred at the intersection, and it involved a 2010 Honda van that was stopped in the roadway, and it was occupied by one person. In total, 3 cars were involved. Each car was occupied by one driver, and all involved were transported to the hospital. As previously stated, Ms. Brown did not survive her injuries. Officer Davis was admitted to the hospital with serious leg injuries, and he has undergone surgery today, and he is in recovery right now. The other driver was treated and released from the hospital yesterday. State statute 565765 requires the State Highway Patrol to investigate all collisions involving a law enforcement agency and another motorist. The statute requires that they investigate the collision and file a report with their findings of whether the agency's motor vehicle was operating properly and within appropriate guidelines and statutes. As such, the South Carolina Highway Patrol did respond to the crash scene yesterday and immediately initiated their investigation. That investigation is being led by troopers assigned to the Multidisciplinary Accident Investigation Team, often referred to as the MATE team. All information regarding this fatal collision will come from the South Carolina Highway Patrol. We will conduct a separate administrative review of the collision to determine if any of our policies and procedures were violated. As with all of our administrative reviews, we will share that publicly at their conclusion. The pursuit continued for several miles across 3 police regions: the North Region, Metro Region, and Southeast Region. At approximately 3:16, the suspect turned on the shady lane traveling north towards a dead end, and that's in the Lake Catherine community. At approximately 3:18, the pursuit ends when the suspect entered a private residence driveway, drove through the driveway and into the wood line. Officers gave chase after the suspect jumped from the vehicle and ran into the woods. The suspect was subsequently arrested and in possession of 2 firearms at the time of his arrest. The suspect was identified as Wesley Tyler Gross, date of birth of 6/13/95. His last name is spelled Gross. The suspect's been charged with murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and failure to stop for blue light and siren. The suspect was out on a $10,000 surety bond for a breach of peace of a high and aggravated nature and presenting a firearm at a person. That case is being investigated by the Richland County Sheriff's Department. The total pursuit that the officers were involved in following the murder at JT Kia lasted 8 minutes and 13 seconds. Officer Davis, that attempted to respond to assist in the pursuit, from the time that he initiated to his collision, it was less than a minute. We do not know the motive of the shooting at this time. So, as I said, I'm not at liberty to discuss the details of the collision. That'll be done and shared upon the conclusion of the investigation by the Highway Patrol. I can take a few brief questions about the related to the murder, if anybody has any.
The suspect waived his right to appear today. What are the next steps after that?
He will eventually, he's being held without bond right now. He'll have subsequent bond hearings, and he'll have a preliminary hearing in general sessions.
Can you spell the officer's name for me, please?
Yes, I can. Officer Darian, Darian Davis. He's been with the police department for 1 year and 4 months. He's assigned to the North Region, and he is an officer in good standing with no disciplinary issues. His date of hire specifically was January 9th, 2023, and he is an Army veteran.
And you won't be able to share, he had his lights on and the speed he was on? Won't be able to share any of that?
That would come from the Highway Patrol at the conclusion of their investigation.
You said no motive or anything determined for the shooting that happened at JT's Kia?
That's correct. Not at this time. It's still very ongoing. we're very pleased that we were able to make an apprehension of such a dangerous person. But it's still very preliminary to understand exactly why it happened. But it was significant that when he was apprehended, he was in possession of 2 firearms and multiple rounds of ammunition, so we don't know what his ultimate attempt or intent was. Again, I'm really at a loss of what I could even begin to say to the family of Miss Brown. You know, we strive for perfection, and we train for perfection in an imperfect world. I know what these officers go through every day in service of their community. I know the work they do to save lives. I know the value they put on the sanctity of life, and I can tell you that there is never a time that we would ever invoke an ill intent to harm somebody, and it's just a tragic situation. We will be as you always can expect from us, we will be as transparent as we can. Again, on behalf of the police department and our city, we extend condolences to the family. Would you like to say anything?
Just really briefly, I mean, there's not much else to say other than our deepest condolences to Ms. Brown and her family as a mother, but as the manager of our city, we couldn't ever ask for a series of events to be any worse than what they were yesterday. And I can tell you on this 10th anniversary to the day that I hired this man, it has rocked him to his core, and I've watched him deeply upset about this incident, and I can tell you we're committed to the MATE team investigation to see it through with transparency, and we wouldn't expect anything less than that they get to the bottom of everything that occurred. But we offer our condolences for Ms. Brown and her family, and we're certainly praying for our officer as well.
Thank you. Thank you all.